Litwa Marie. How many of you just thought that you were up too late because of the fireworks and that's why you didn't understand what I was saying? That is the language of Rwanda, East Africa, where I have spent the last 8 months. And that language is Kinyarwanda. And what I said to you was, good morning, how are you? My name is called, I am called Marie. And over the last 8 months that I've been there, I learned so much about Rwanda, but like many missionaries, we often go thinking like, man, we're gonna go make a difference, it's gonna be awesome, it's gonna be great, which is true. But because the Lord often teaches us before we teach others, the last 8 months was a lot of lessons for me, where I learned that this was far more than just a mission. And I learned that it required at least 3 things from me, but I'm going to share 3 with you this morning. That it first starts with an open heart. You have to be willing to be open to whatever the Lord has, and it all starts from there. But then, with the open heart, what do we do with it? It means a yes, period. That is not a typo on the screen. Yes, period. It isn't a yes and, it isn't a yes, Lord, if it's comfortable, it is just yes, period. And then we stay. We stay when life gets messy, hard, and deeply personal. Because to live a life for the Lord and to do what He has called us to do, we cannot do it from a distance, we cannot do it only when it's comfortable, and we cannot do it only when it feels good to us and we're slightly removed. So, how many of you have woken up from a dream and been like, I don't know what I'm going to do with this, but I know I'm supposed to do something? Yeah, so that was me. Back in 2023, I had woken up from a Sunday afternoon nap, and from there, I was given 3 words, and if we can go to the next slide, that'd be fantastic. I was given 3 words: engage, equip, and empower. And I'm like, fantastic, what do you want me to do with that? And out of that is where Go to the Nations was born. And with Go to the Nations, it first came in 2023 with those 3 words, where I was like, okay, we'll go to the nations, great commission, that's great. But I really felt the Lord going like, check Facebook, check Instagram. And I'm like, surely those social media handles have been taken. I mean, Great Commission's been around for a minute. But sure enough, go to the nations.org, .com, .net, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, all of those were available. And so that was my confirmation of, okay, so now what? And over the next 2.5, 3 years, Go to the Nations now grown to where we are now a tax-exempt 501c3 nonprofit in the state of Nebraska. And our mission is threefold off of those 3 words that the Lord gave me. Our start with our open heart is we are going to make Jesus known wherever we are, whatever that looks like. We're going to cultivate purpose. My background is in social work, so agency and dignity and sustainability is incredibly important to me. And then out of that also, we're going to mobilize what matters. We're not interested in doing projects for the sake of doing projects. We're not interested in going and taking pictures places just for the sake of taking pictures. We want it to matter to the people we're serving, and mostly to the Lord's leading. Those pictures you see up there, those are just a few highlights. I actually been in Rwanda 3 times, so some of those photos are from various times when I'm there. But I do want to highlight the picture with myself and those 4 young adults. Those are my children that the Lord has given me in Rwanda. And when I talk about you stay when it's deeply personal, all I ever wanted was to be a mom. That was it. That was my life's mission. That was what I wanted. However, for those of you who know my story, know that I spent over 2 decades trying everything but Jesus. And out of that, and some of those natural consequences, I was not able to have my own kids. But I knew that the Lord kept his promises. I mean, he cannot lie. So little did I know, though, that he would keep his promise by giving me a family 8,000 miles away from here. And those 4 on that screen are my heart. And they help me stay when things get hard. Now, it's not just me as part of Go to the Nations. I have a leadership team, because Lord knows you don't want me to make decisions on my own. And part of that team is comprised of Jamie Scott, who's actually here this morning. She is our fabulous secretary and hype girl. She brings excellent ideas and motivation and really helps to focus where we're going. And then Michelle Kemish, she's our treasurer, who also would have loved to be here today, however the holiday weekend took her out. She is our treasurer. She is amazing for the team because she and Jamie both will tell me no. And as much as I don't want to be told no, sometimes I need to be told no. And that's why I lead the team. And beyond these 3, there are others behind us who prayerfully support, financially support, and actually put their hands to the work both here and in Rwanda. And we would not exist without our team. So we are so, so deeply grateful. A little bit about Go to the Nations and what we're rooted in. Obviously, first and foremost, the Lord and his word. But what does that practically look like? What that practically looks like is Christ is first. We are unashamedly Christian, even when we go into some of the areas where it's not as open. We still lead with Jesus' heart, even in places maybe we don't speak Jesus out. And then, as I mentioned earlier, as a social worker, dignity and autonomy and purpose, and we focus locally. Because what works here doesn't work other places, so we make sure that we educate ourselves to be culturally appropriate where we go, to be able to reach the people in the most effective way. And none of us want to come in and be a savior. We're not there to save them. They're doing just fine on their own in that regard. But we can come in and elevate them. We can come alongside them. We can help identify leaders and raise them up. And through that, that builds what lasts. That's that sustainable change that matters. Because our goal is not to just come in, do some things, and then leave. And sometimes things go back to the way they were. Our goal is to build sustainable change. Now, when I was talking with the Lord about what scripture to speak about today, all of that, I was surprised by this one. Because it's not your traditional mission-focused, even like Nehemiah going to build a wall, need a team kind of thing. This is very personal. And so I'm like, okay, Lord, what do you want to do with this? Because I honestly thought this word was for me a few weeks ago when he gave it to me. But I think he wants to do something with it this morning. So in my desire to live a yes period life, here we are reading out of John 12, verse 3. It says, "Then Mary took about a pint of pure nard, an expensive perfume. She poured it on Jesus' feet and wiped his feet with her hair. And the house was filled with the fragrance of the perfume." And to give just a little context, this is when Jesus is getting ready to head towards the cross. And he is recently raised Lazarus from the dead, drew quite the noise And she came in, and she did a lot of things that were countercultural, that wouldn't have made sense and actually upset some people. And by coming in, first of all, disrupting the meal. Second of all, she came in and poured this expensive oil. It says a pint here. Some translations say it could be as much as a half a liter. And poured this perfume over Jesus' feet and then wiped her hair with it, which in that culture, a woman to show her hair in that way, in the first place, would have not been taken kindly, and then now you're doing this very, very countercultural, people just don't do that kind of thing. And so it disrupted everything of that evening. And I started asking the Lord, like, well, what do you want to say about this? Like, how does this tie into what you want me to say this morning? And that's where I came up with, or he gave me, you pick, proximity matters. Because Mary couldn't do what she did from a distance. She had to get close. And then something to think about too is that Scripture says the room filled with the perfume. But two people left smelling like that perfume. Jesus and Mary. The two people who were closest to that perfume ended up walking out smelling like that. And I think that that's something that the Lord wants us to hold on to today regarding proximity. And I'm going to transition into talking about mission and go to the nations and what we're doing. But I want us to, even as we transition into that, think about what proximity means for you all personally. So, what Go to the Nations chooses to do is partner globally for lasting impact. We talked about that briefly, right? We're into sustainability and such. And not wanting to take too much of a right turn, no turn signal kind of move from that scripture into what Go to the Nations does. But we do believe that proximity even matters in missions. That although we can send some money, send some people to train and such, we do believe that being in the work with them matters. And so whether it is me or someone else, our hope is that Go to the Nations will have somebody who is always connected to the areas where we serve. And a couple of our partners that we have now are Envy and Deep Light Fountain. I love how the Lord is setting this up, because with these two partners, we're doing both towards the end of life care and also students who are coming up and growing. And in both of these organizations, there is youth leading. And so when I say youth, in Rwanda, youth is considered ages 18 to 30. So we have youth in both these organizations who are either helping to run it or running it. And that, I love how the Lord's putting together that intergenerational component. I want to first talk about Envy and Envy Compassionate Care. The pictures that you see up here, they really speak to Envy's mission. I want to first talk about the hospital picture, where Envy's mission is to have elders at the center of care. And this photo holds deep feeling in my heart, because this was just last March on International Women's Day, and we took a few of our elder women and to the local public hospital to meet some new moms who had just given birth and provide them with newborn care kits, which included diapers, bottles, milk, that sort of thing. And you may wonder why an organization focused on the elderly decided to do something for moms with new babies. The reason why we chose to do that is because some of these elders don't get out much. They're off of hard roads to get to, maybe they have some mobility issues themselves. And so we just really wanted to give them an opportunity to feel like they were still living a purpose-driven life, right? They were still doing something that mattered. And so we took them with us along with our youth, and we went into the maternity area. And in Rwanda, if you cannot pay your hospital bill, you do not get to leave. Which maybe doesn't make a lot of sense to us because that bill continues to increase, right? But that is how they operate there. So we had moms who had already been there for a few days, not able to go home. So MV covered the labor and delivery bill for several of those new moms so they could go home. And the elders then gave out the newborn kits. They then sat with those new moms and gave them words of wisdom and prayed over them and helped them to see that although they may have felt alone in the hospital, they are not alone. And really gave something tangible to them to show them that Jesus sees them. And then the second part of Envy's vision is really where every elder is honored, cared for, and connected. So, actually, if you'll go back to that. Oh, actually, you have a difference. Oh, there you go. Yes. So, this is Edith. She is in her late 80s, and yes, you are seeing her get onto the back of a motorcycle. And Edith, she lives probably about half an hour travel from where that photo was taken. And she came to our office that day because she wanted to share with us some information. And our heart, though, is that Edith doesn't always have to get on the back of a motor to get somewhere, because that is one of the standard modes of transportation in Rwanda. But they're not incredibly safe overall. And in fact, Edith normally walks with a help of a cane, but she left it home that day because she knew that she couldn't get a cane on a moto well. So our hope over time is to build up transportation for Envy Compassionate Care so we can take people to and from their appointments, their medical appointments, maybe get them to the market, those sort of things, so they can move around a little more safely. But for now, Edith hopped on a moto to come see us. Envy does feel that if elders are first, then communities rise. And we do that by compassionate home visits, as well as strengthening families. Now I want to start with the picture on the right. That gentleman there, those are not his grandchildren, those are his children. In Rwanda, you'll often see parents older still having kids. He is in his 60s, and that is his youngest next to him. I believe there are 7 or 8 children overall. The reason why we met with him is he's somebody who is a local ministry leader who was widowed a year ago. So he was widowed with these kids to still raise and care for. So Envy is entering in where they can to help support that family. Now the picture on the left, I want somebody to guess how old you think that woman is. And if you've read my notes, you don't get to speak yet. 95?
102.
102? Person closest gets a gift. Does that encourage you to speak up? 105? 87?
82.
82?
107.
I'm sorry?
107.
Who said 107? You haven't read my notes, but you are 100% right. Good work. No, I'm serious about the gift, though. Come up there. You got a gift. So she is 107, and that is the oldest person I've ever met, and that is actually Richard. He is the founder and executive director of Envy Compassionate Care, and we went and visited her in a village. I don't know that I could get there again on my own if I needed to because of the roads. It was quite an adventure, but it was worth having because meeting her, having the opportunity to pray over her, all of that really helps instill why we do what we do. And then I want to speak about our second partner, Deep Light Fountain. And Deep Light Fountain, they function to help students go to school, stay in school, who otherwise wouldn't be able to go to school. And the way that they do that is they really focus on family preservation. And what that looks like is they will meet with families who maybe those kids would end up becoming street kids, or when they go to school, they assess them, and then they determine if Deep Light Fountain will be able to return to pay for their school fees. And it's not just their school fees, they actually go and work with the families to build skills where there might be a gap in skills, whether it's financial literacy or working through some trauma, whatever that looks like, they enter in because they know that if the family is healthy, the family is strong, and of course, especially if the family knows the Lord, then that helps with the students and in their performance. Because if the students are going to school and even excelling in school, but coming home to a life that's less than great, that's going to affect their ability to finish school. One of the things that I really want to share about Deep Light Fountain that I'm excited about is that picture there. Those are 4 of the youth from the leadership team. And the leadership team is comprised of all youth in their early 20s. And it was actually founded by them when they were still in high school about 2.5 years ago. And so for the last 2.5 years, they've been working towards solving this problem the best that they knew how, because some of the people on the leadership team were street kids or orphans themselves and wanted something different for others. And when Go to the Nations decided to come alongside Deep Light Fountain, they had already been doing this for about 2 years. They've been sustaining it on their own for about 2 years, which meant that even the students themselves that are running Deep Light Fountain would often make sacrifices themselves, even if it meant food and that sort of thing, to make sure these students were getting care that they needed. And they started with about 4 or 5, and the leadership team is a team of 8, and they're now up to 19 students that, to this point, they're really supporting on their own. And that's part of the reason why I'm here today is, if you go to the next slide, I'm here to tell a story. And that's the story of Ivan. And he is getting ready to take a national exam July 15th. So he's one of the first students that Deep Light Fountain took on. And the reason why they took him on was because they were finishing their senior year of high school with his eldest sister, and their mom died while she was finishing high school, and then him and his sister were still in lower grades. And so Deep Light Fountain leadership team decided that they would take these 2 on so that they could continue school and that their friend could graduate high school. And so now Ivan is going to take the ordinary exam on July 15th. So what that means is in Rwanda, public school is not free, and there are points of time that you need to take an exam in order to advance on. And this is one of those times. So this is where he will take an exam to then ideally be able to finish high school. So we are praying for him that he is able to just really focus these next couple weeks, and then will take the exam. And then once he takes the exam, he still needs to wait about 2 months before he knows if he passed or not. So yeah, things are a little different there in some ways, but we are really excited that what he's overcome, from losing a parent to now getting ready to advance into high school. And I do want to talk a little bit about the sponsorship. I said that they have 19 students that they're supporting right now. Our goal is, from Go to the Nations, is to take some of that burden off of them, because they have 19 now with several more already in queue, ready to go when they have the capacity to bring the students on. And Deep Light Fountain has chosen $35 a month for the sponsorship for a couple reasons. we really want to make it attainable for people to reach. And also, since they are a youth-ran organization, they also want to make that amount reachable for youth here, so they can even get engaged. So for most of us, we spend at least that much on coffee in a month. And so that's one of the reasons why they chose that amount. But what's awesome about it though is that it will cover their school fees and their meals and transportation, and then also give them access to healthcare. And not only healthcare for them, but up to also 5 of their intermediate family members, for the same reason that we spoke of earlier, which is when the students are healthy and doing well, and the family is healthy and doing well, then everybody wins, right? Everybody succeeds. And what they're doing now is, I know it's hard to imagine because we just celebrated Independence Day yesterday, but they're already preparing for the school year coming up here, and they're doing that through a school supply drive, because just like public school isn't free, they have to supply all of the necessities, uniforms, notebooks, pens, underwear, soap, those kinds of things for those kids. And their goal, although it's not up there on that, is $700, and that will cover the supplies for the year. So that is what they're aiming towards, is initially to have that $700, just so the students know that they have all the supplies that they need for the year. And the next screen has a QR code, and that QR code will take you to the Go to the Nations website specifically for Deep Light Fountain. However, feel free to browse around and see what else and learn more than what my words just said this morning. But truly, I'm focused largely this morning on Deep Light Fountain, where it says sponsor a future, change a story. But to go back to in the compassionate care, when you're sponsoring even someone towards the end of their life, that also changes the story and changes the legacy for the family. Because in many families, when the elderly person in the family is not eating well, that also means the rest of the family is not eating well. And so India is stepping in with their main focus on nutrition and health care and getting connected to those things, which really isn't much different than what Deep Light Fountain is doing for the students, connected to resources and nutrition and healthcare. But I really think that it's important to see the big picture from the beginning of life as well as into the later years of life, and how when we connect those generations, how legacies change, lives change, and ultimately communities will change. And that's where the stay portion comes in to the story. This photo here is actually one of our elders, and then some of our young adult youth who are just on fire for the Lord. They go out and they evangelize, they go and enter into homes with people to pray with them. And in the Rwandan culture, you don't show up empty-handed. Often here, if we're going to go have a meal somewhere and be like, oh, what would you like me to bring? Well, we don't even ask that question. We just bring. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times we'll bring milk or some fresh fruit, something along those lines that can, maybe some porridge flour, something that will help sustain the family. And I put this picture up because these youth who are struggling themselves to make ends meet, they will sacrifice and they will make sure that they don't show up to any of the homes empty-handed. And that helps them to get close. Because if you think about it, even Jesus fed people when they were hungry. And I can even take that into the social work world of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. If we're taking care of some of the most basic needs, then that helps someone hear what you're really trying to say. And they live that out so well. I'm so proud of them. And these are some of the reasons why I stay. Why I sold my house, rehomed my dog, quit the job I loved, all those things, is for moments like this, to see them get close, to see them choose to even make themselves uncomfortable to do what they believe the Lord is leading them to do. And it's really easy to just use words and such. But my heart gets so big when I'm watching people live it out, when I'm watching them follow the Lord's leading in ways that maybe doesn't even make sense to some people. And, you'll hear missionaries talk, right? Like, we're all called to go, we're all called to do something in some sort of way. That is true, right? Not all of us are meant to go 8,000 miles away, but we all are called to maybe our next door neighbor, or our coworker, or that family member who you've been praying for, but were concerned about upsetting them so you didn't have to say anything, but you prayed for them. So one, keep praying, but two, also ask the Lord if and when it's time to actually say something, and live it out, and then stay when it might become deeply personal. And that takes me back to where we started with proximity matters. I'm going to read the verse again, and I want you guys to just sit with it for a minute. Then Mary took about a pint of pure nard, an expensive perfume. She poured it out on Jesus' feet and wiped his feet with her hair. And the house was filled with the fragrance of the perfume. Where might the Lord be asking you to come close? And we can talk about proximity in regards to missions or to all of those things. But if we go way back to the beginning, when I say it starts with an open heart, ask the Lord to check your heart. Is your heart open and laid at Jesus' feet? The best place to be is at his feet. Yes, all of the stuff that we do is necessary. It isn't that we just sit and do nothing. But it first starts with him. It continues with him, and it ends with him. And if at any point we are not at his feet, for any of us, myself included, who got up this morning to be like, Lord, am I at your feet? Because I certainly don't want to speak this word and not be living it. So, my prayer is that you encounter the Lord in such a way that he shows you what it's like to live at his feet. To know, let me go so far as to say, is to get his aroma on you. So when you go out, you smell different. Because you have poured out everything that you have. That oil, that perfume was more than a year's wages. She poured everything out at his feet. Did something that was countercultural because she knew he was worth it. Because he is worth it. And so my call to you is to open your heart, to say yes, period, and then to stay. And I'll have the worship team come up. The last slide I have is our contact information. That's great. I would love for you to connect. I would love for you guys to know more. because none of his desires were about him. And this will all go away sooner than later, more than likely. But he is the only one who will remain. And I want you all with him